Who's trying to hook up with you?
He's gay for me and engaged to a woman.
Ew.
But he really is, because we had a locksmith outside in the hallway who was really hot. He's really hot. And I texted him. I see, it's probably my fault.
Yeah, why would you text him? You do that. You're always like, it's probably my fault. I texted him, did send him a dick pic. I sent him a picture of my gaping asshole.
Hello, folks. Welcome.
Is he going to listen to this podcast? No.
No.
I
just no. I think it's like literally like we're in our own world. Like no one's gonna listen. Meanwhile, like blows up, like huge and famous.
No one's listening. Meanwhile, Academy Award
for me.
Yeah.
Welcome to Creative Risk. Yeah. Okay, hold on 1 second. Just gotta get back. Crazy.
Wow. So Joshua's gay neighbor is currently trying to hook up with him, I guess. You know, this is what happens when that's how you know you made it. And if any upstairs neighbor wants to hook up with me, that'd be great. You know, please. He has a gay voice. That's a gay voice. That's a gay voice. But I know exactly what I want to talk about when Joshua comes back. You know, hurry it up. See, he's leading him on. Just thank you, goodbye. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sure you do appreciate it. I was saying.
Did you keep talking?
Yeah, I said he has a gay voice. I could hear it. He has a gay voice.
You can't say that.
Yes, whatever. I'm gay.
You can't say he's gay.
That's
my frame.
It's perfect, but let's talk about it. Remember we talked about, because remember we saw the prom.
I'm out of breath.
You're like, every time you move in this podcast, you're like, I'm dizzy. Whatever. If you just pan down, it's like 500 pounds. But
just
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have a scooter, an electric scooter underneath you. Anyway, but
you gotta make your acting career happen for yourself. Acting for myself in my bathroom, just like
exactly.
in my mirror.
I love it. But wait, let's talk about this because he's definitely gay. He has a gay voice, and we were talking about. Remember when the prom came out? This is very interesting.
Oh yeah,
this was a great convo. It was me, you, and Gus, and we were talking about like James Corden and the big blowback he got.
Yeah,
remember we had a long. And I was like, he seemed really gay to me, and you were like, oh. Because you didn't know he wasn't gay. Remember?
James Corden?
You didn't know that until I said it. And you're like, oh, I knew he wasn't gay. I could tell from his performance.
Right.
And we were talking about, well, why was his performance not gay? Like, you could see through it.
Yeah.
But why couldn't I? We were talking about what makes somebody gay. And how do you act gay? And remember we were talking about this. And the conclusion we came is that there's a little more poise. Just a little more, it's a little lifted.
Well, because people think of even the most flamboyant gay people, gay men, gay male identifying folk. You know, even the people who are incredibly flamboyant, there is still something that's held. I find when sometimes, like in that performance of James Corden, so that's not my comfort food performance guy. I just want to be clear. Because the performance, like, when it's like, oh my God, no. Even a gay man who does that, which we know many, they hold themselves more. Every gay man on earth does that. There's only one kind of way to act gay, and it's that. No, I think, but my neighbor is gay for me.
But I could tell because he has that little bit of, just a little bit of poise. But it's interesting.
He asked where you were. He was like, oh, you had a friend here. I was like, he's downstairs. I'm like, what? And
wow.
And the locksmith, he's a really hot locksmith, though. He really was.
You already said this.
I know, but
I'm not deleting anything that we just talked about so far.
But he was like behind him. I'm like, where is he? I don't know. The whole thing was weird.
Yeah, that sounds very strange.
I know.
We'll have to talk about your experiences on the road sometime.
They just went to Burning Man.
Oh, he's that kind of person.
Anyway, welcome to Creative Risk, where we talk about art, gay voices, entrepreneurialism, and everything in between.
Gay voices as told by straight men such as myself.
And I'm basically straight. Let's
the lameness, the play. I'm basically straight.
Let's talk about comfort food performances before we get into today's
segment.
No, I really don't actually. I really actually do like this segment. And we haven't. So today, let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
We're going to talk about something really important today, and it's all about type, and specifically, fuck type. Who cares about tuck and type? Type is not a fucking tool to use to
Who cares
market.
about tuck and fight?
Who could tuck and fucking muck 'em, fuck 'em?
Okay, so type and why it's not good.
Yeah.
And, we'll give you no solutions. Just talk about why type isn't good.
Type sucks.
No solves.
No
positive.
Hold on. Don't go down. I'm going to turn the AC on because I'm hot.
Okay. So I'll talk about my comfort food performance. Well, you go first because I always go first. He's out of breath.
Like I always go first.
He's just sweat. He's drenched.
That would be funny. I should if I
That would be
had
so
come
funny.
in, that'd be
That
a
would be
really
good
good
shtick.
bit.
That'd be good.
Breath. No, so
He's like shake a shit out of your pant leg. You're like,
my favorite, not my favorite, my comfort food performance is more around a performer in general, but I will give a specific performance, and it's someone that you know, and I'm assuming you know them well. Slee.
yeah, sure.
Did you go to school with Slee?
Yes, Savannah Lee Mumford is how I know Slee. But
Right,
yes.
but Slee prefers to go by Slee. No.
Oh God, do we have to edit this out? Is that a gender thing?
No,
or is like
no. It's not. Okay, but I don't even think Slee would be bothered by that because I was literally having this conversation with someone the other day because we live in a day and age where if I'm like, oh, I go by Jay now, we could. It's a safe assumption. I think.
I know. Yeah,
I think
didn't
it's
mean
a
any
perfectly
harm.
appropriate question.
Please. Don't. Please.
Please, I've got very little.
I'm so sorry.
Don't cancel me.
I beg of you.
I'm nothing. I'm worthless. That's anything I'll do.
Just like beating myself.
Ow, I really hit myself. Anyway, that's our interpretation of people getting canceled.
Yeah. That's what it's like, to live in this fascist woke culture we live in. And that's it.
Okay, well, let me see what I
Oh
love
my
about Slee. So did you see Slee in Stranger Things?
I didn't, but no, I've seen clips. Incredible.
She's so good.
Incredible.
So we did a reading of Boeing the other day, as you know. And Slee played Gretchen the German. And let me tell you what I love about Slee. Slee's my kind of performer because balls to the wall, impulsive, free, present. You and me, we're amazing.
Great actors like
Let me tell
ourselves.
you, we're our kind of performers. But seriously, what I love about it is it really is like she's her performance in Stranger Things was just great. She was so present with the audience. She sings great, but she's really a great actor, and she's pretty fearless. And I'm curious to see where the rest of her career goes because I loved her in Stranger Things, and I loved her in this reading as Gretchen the German. So Slee, if you do listen to this, just know that I love you.
She does. No, but she's really incredible. No, she's.
I don't know her very well at all.
She's got a presence.
What was she your year?
No, I'm much older than she is.
Oh, really?
Not much, like 3 years, but yeah, no,
She certainly wasn't my year.
certainly not.
Back in 1964,
Yeah,
when
exactly.
the school was still founded.
I
opened the
back
door.
where we had to wear.
Hello, my name is Joshua Morgan.
Joshua Morgan.
It's by Robert. That's like apparently with Robert Best today. Okay,
You know
so
what?
you're
I was going to
perfect.
say one thing, but now I
Yeah.
will say this because of where we were just going. Frasier, Kelsey Grammer. I mean,
Really good.
I think Frasier is my favorite sitcom. Out of all the sitcoms, I think Frasier's my favorite. More than Seinfeld, more than Everybody Loves Raymond, which I also like. But Kelsey Grammer on that show is a fucking genius. What were you laughing?
I'm still laughing. I'm so sorry. I'll never again speak a word.
please.
I'll never mumble a mistake ever again.
Please. I just get sniped, yeah. AOC comes in here and she starts beating me. I don't know. I beg of you, please. Found footage, like Blair Witch Project, like the camera falls over and it's like down on the floor. And you just see like my legs.
It was a question. It was a question.
I was just confused.
Aren't we all?
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. Speaking of a famous Trumper, Kelsey Grammer.
Oh my God, legit.
Well, listen,
Every episode we talk about Trump. I'm seriously, Mike. This is going to become an alt-right podcast. I'm telling you.
I really, as you have
Okay,
laid.
but that'll be some good shit. alt-right actor podcast. That's actually
Listen,
it'll be
I'm sure they
be
exist.
you, me, Randy Quaid, Kelsey Grammer. We'll do it
Listen.
at Kirstie Alley's gravesite.
Yeah. That's it. Exactly. I love
Dying
that.
my own joke.
Yeah, I like how you're like, I really like how you're like, they're going to think we're Trumpers. And it's like literally you're showing your playbills in that episode. You're like, here, Catherine Hepburn. Anyway, so, but he is inspired in that show. He is fucking hilarious. I mean, and he's so big and dramatic and shake, but he plays it so seriously. Like, that's the thing, is it is deathly serious. It's arch, but it's not. That's a very hard. It's hard to be that over the top and not be arch.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so on it. Like, it's earnest, it's honest, but it's huge and it's humongous.
See, now wait. Going back to the gay thing, I saw Kelsey Grammer do La Cage aux Folles. And
me too. He was great in that. Well,
Douglas Hodge.
Who knows?
I'm gonna look it up. Partly why.
Also a straight man.
That's right. But partly why Kelsey Grammer was so good. To your point about Douglas Hodge. And it's coming off of your point about being arched. It wasn't. It was actually quite. It was quite hell. It was an essence.
Exactly.
A held essence, and it was genius. I'm totally with you.
And he is just in Frasier and David Hyde. I mean both, but Kelsey especially. But David Hyde Pierce is also just extraordinary too. Like, so funny, and that show is just so fucking good because it is. I mean, it was on for 15 years, and it's so like
Really that long?
Yeah,
Doesn't
I think
make
it was
sense.
like near that long.
Well, they're filming the other one right now.
Oh, listen, bitch. Richard Delia, whatever your name is. He's the guy who cast it. Rich Delia or Delia.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yes, I know you.
Call me girl. I could be Frasier.
Well, David Hyde, because he didn't return, and it's because
I know.
apparently Kelsey Grammer kind of got it. Apparently, I don't know what the
Well,
conversation
apparently
is.
they're friends. Well, I like to believe that they're still, that there's. I love that show. I love them. Everybody on that show is excellent. The one who plays Roz too.
Who's that?
I forgot.
The British woman?
No, but she's great too. Daphne Moon.
You mean BB Newirth?
BB Newirth is incredible too. No, but the one who plays Roz, the producer, who's kind of a what's the word I'm looking for in today? Please, I was just saying loose, but that's the joke, because she's a little loose.
She's maybe slept with one more than. I'm getting dizzy again.
That's not good. Maybe you have diabetes. I don't know.
It's so funny. I was just watching a commercial on diabetes, and I was like, I wonder if I have diabetes. How do you know if you have diabetes?
I'm sure somebody will be in the comments to talk about how it's not a joke and they're
I'm not. Did that look like a joke? How do I know if I had diabetes?
Well, if you were missing a foot, I guess. I don't know.
I woke up one day and guess I
guess
got
I got
diabetes. Diabetes. The diabetes. See, oh God.
My grandmother lost her foot from diabetes, so I can say that. Let's move on.
I know other people with diabetes too. I'm not making it a joke, please. I'm so sorry, please. I'm sorry.
Oh no. No, please.
Okay, so we're talking today about something that we have heard as actors for as long as we can remember. Probably one of the earliest things we learned about
just
was
just triggered.
Well,
no.
but
literally,
it really is. I mean, and look, it's funny because we have here like what is type, and it's funny because we don't have a definition per se, but it's because it's very basic for me in this regard.
Now, what's your definition of type?
I really always think of type as a categorizational tool, and by that, so while I don't have the perfect words to put together, this is what I picture in my head. Someone, a casting director, whatever, sitting there with photos, because it's 1992 or whatever, and putting, based off the picture, into piles, as we know, the nerdy best friend, the girl next door, the loose mistress on the run, whatever. We just got types of archetypes and characters that we as picture a cartoon. That's the villain, whatever it is.
Sure.
That's what I think of type. What do you think of as type?
Say what you said in definition form. Type is the types of roles an actor can play, or is expected. The types of roles an actor is expected to play.
The types of archetypal roles.
Exactly. And so, and I think that this next question is interesting. How's type played into our lives? And it's interesting, and this is why type is so. Oh boy, actually, it is actually kind of I just start crying.
We type each other. I'm like,
yeah,
the loser,
the fat loser idiot, the ne'er-do-well moron,
the gay stupid bottom,
the messy bottom. Is messy bottom a type, you think? Yeah. Why not?
In some communities.
Yeah.
In some communities. On OnlyFans
at the Castro, where I went to recently.
Castro. Yeah, Mike was telling me all the penises he saw in the Castro.
The Castro. That was, listen.
I am surprised to hear that there was like penises like day
I thought you said, oh no, I went there and there was men walking around butt naked.
Again, when I said I'm sure you saw penises, I thought you meant like figuratively. I didn't mean
I mean a nude men plural.
Anyway, we were talking about
no, but okay, but let's talk about type has played a role in our lives.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Whatever. Do people care about this? Well, whatever. We'll talk about it. So I remember when I was in college.
Well, just to be clear, sorry, and I don't want you to tell your story, but it's why I didn't move to LA or New York as soon as I finished school was because of type, which we'll talk about in a second. But go.
You're already on a roll there. You're already starting it off.
Tee up a great story. I'm like, but you.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. There's a big reason. But you go, Mike. Go ahead. Please, you go first.
No, I and it relates to where I went. I did not move to Los Angeles or New York when I left the School of the Arts because there was a narrative, and I still tell the story today, that I would not work. And I would not work, and usually the sentence I say because following that is because I didn't look like the other guys in my class. And I felt it right away, even when agents and managers and casting folks would come down to the school, because I was the character guy. And also not that easy to place because I wasn't 400 pounds. Not that, oh God, here we go. Oh God, here we go. No, I'm so sorry. I love fat people, myself included. I'm not saying that. But I was hard to pin because, I wasn't.
You weren't quite character-y enough.
Exactly. But so that's where it started playing a role in my life. And I just want to say, when I moved to DC, I got to do everything. The first big part I did, I played an All-American baseball player. The very first part. Yeah. This is my baseball player.
Batter up.
Am I out? No. I don't know who I was talking to. That was after my 3 swings.
Yeah.
But
ball.
I actually did. I won't say who it was, but I did tell you that the director used to call me a faggot. In that, oh God, he'd be so canceled today. And I noticed you bleeped that word out, and I think that's right.
No, just in the reels, not in the actual.
All right,
not in the actual episode.
Oh God, I don't.
If I say it, I have to bleep it because I am not of that community.
Well, I don't think I'm allowed to say it either.
I'm an ally.
I'm
not.
Say it. I don't know. But anyway, so I used to call me faggot all the time. But anyway, when DC, I got to do anything. There was no type schmipe. Who cares about type? It wasn't because it was a regional market. It was a small. They cared more so about like the goods, like if you had the goods, and that was totally different from major markets. So that's how it played a role in my life. Your turn. Better top that. Better top me.
You wish. No, but
I do a sex tape.
yeah. We just like. God, people would like throw up.
You're like, no,
please stop. No, but well, I remember. Okay, to make a very long, I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, which is a very good school, and I always saw myself as a character actor, and I had this issue at school too, where in high school when I went to an arts magnet school.
with my boyfriend.
With your boyfriend. And, you know, I'd always want the interesting parts and the character parts, but they always give me sort of the straight man parts. You know, the more actor heavy parts, for lack of a way of putting it, like serious roles, whatever. And then at school, because I was, you know, whatever, I'm not trying to make this a thing, but like, you know, I'm not an all-American type of looking dude. And I was in a class with like, you know, gorgeous, conventionally handsome leading men types. I was like, oh, I'm going to be the character guy. Like I remember the first time we did this, we did something called Detective Story. Have you ever read that play? It was Carl's first play there.
I was there. I remember you were doing
such a good play
when I was there, but I didn't see it because I went back to visit.
To make a long story short, because I actually think this is kind of important. Just got a 45-minute story, but it's like we were doing Detective Story, and like, you know, it was the first like police procedural. It was written in like the 40s, and there's like 50 characters in it, and it's a police precinct in New York, and I thought I was gonna be one of the hoods. Like when we read the play, I was like, oh, I'll be this guy. I'll be Charlie Paluziomo or whatever, and I'll be like, you know, hey boss, like go suck my dick or whatever. You know? that's a
hey boss, you want to suck my dick?
Hey boss, I'm a messy vada. Stick it in my ass.
I want to see that show.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? Hey, boss, hey, I'm not gay. Just fuck me a little bit.
What's the big deal?
What's the big
prostate love amongst friends?
Why are you wanna?
Your fist?
Yeah, why are you wanna?
This is.
Yeah. You're like, this is not good. We have to redo it. No, but I thought I was gonna be that guy. We're talking about type, and then so I thought I was gonna be that guy, and then I got cast as like the lead Irish cop, like the main character, and I was shocked because I never saw myself as like third year, like 50 people. I was the lead of the show, and I was like the leading man. And then ever since then, I've had a difficult relationship with type because I let other people dictate it for me. I remember when we did showcase, and you know, that's what people, I would sit down, they say, what kinds of roles do you want to play? And you know me, I think I'm a big silly bitch and I like to have fun and be goofy and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, oh, you're the cop on Blue Bloods, on Law and Order. Like that's your, oh yeah, you're like the working class. And you think you have to live up because, you know, I'm, you know, because whatever, that's what I look like. And you think you have to live up to that. And you're like, oh, those are the types of things I should be doing. Procedurals. I should be like this guy, this guy, this guy. And we'll talk about, but it's taken me a long time, 10 years, to understand what I do that's really different. And not trying to fit into a box that, and this has nothing to do with humanity or self-worth. This is just smart business sense. I was trying to be what they wanted me to be, which was like, clink, like, oh, he's the Italian cop or whatever, he's the hoodlum or whatever, like the, and
well, let's also talk about, Mike, about why, because when even hearing you talk about that, let's talk about why it's a good thing and why it probably even came to exist, right? Because and you, I'm actually remembering weren't going to talk about this per se today, but we've had this conversation before. And that is talking about your anger management issues. No, I'm just kidding. No, you're like, what about your anger management issues? No.
They beat the delivery person.
He's talking about a very specific...
Anyway.
No, was an essence. And honestly, brand clarity. And so from a consumer standpoint, just to say this, when we look at McDonald's versus Five Guys versus Wendy's, whatever, you know, you're looking for like the essence. So for our industry, it makes sense that from a branding standpoint, people are looking for what's the promise I can get that's going to, assuming to be the clearest encapsulation of what that person is.
And to expound on what you're saying is, type is not the way to do it, but there is a human need. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody's going to take the time to get to know who you really are. Who the fuck has time for that? I mean, you know, it's like there's thousands and thousands of people. They're not going to take you need to come to people are going to label and categorize you and tell a story about you. Period.
And let's talk about why that makes sense. Because last night, because I think it's going to come up again, we did a workshop with Lilac Mendelovich. We keep talking about how to maximize your reels using self-tapes. But one of the things that we were talking about was what casting also sees on the back end.
Right.
There's projects are being submitted for. And one of the things she was saying was like, a non-union project alone, you could get 1,000 submissions for one tiny part. Same thing as you could imagine for co-stars. Whatever,
number two.
any project ever. Casting is receiving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions. So, and all they're looking at initially is a photo. So when we are talking about what they're doing, you can't even blame them.
It's not evil. It's not like they're like, oh, they're dehumanized. It's like, listen, they have a job. They have a job. They need to find people. Like, it's a human coping mechanism. Like, you need to fucking label, and you need to fucking go through, and you need to categorize, and you need to make assumptions, and you need to have impressions of people.
I think I told you this story, but when we were casting Some Girls, literally probably 13 years ago now, when we had held New York auditions, people submitted, was Actors Access then. We had so many submissions. I remember saying to, I think it must have been Brian at the time, let's just look at the blondes. Let's just look at the blondes. Who knows if they're even blonde right now? I don't know. Or let's just do brunette. Because I didn't have the time to even click on their reels, let alone their resumes.
And that's not unfair, and that's not fucked up. That's the way of that's what do you expect them, what do you expect if, Erica Hart, we were talking about this, she was like, if I went through every single thing like that and I opened it up to the public and it's like, it would take me 6 months to cast one co-star part. It's like, people think fast. So type is although it's not the best at all, it's the terrible way. It's one way that they try to just make their jobs a little easier as a categorizational tool. However, I will also say, where I think if we are not, and we'll talk about persona, but if we're not leading with something very strong, they're going to go to type. They're going to go to type because I need a doctor who's like a doctor. Like, that's what I'm casting a doctor role. So I'm going to go through the reel and see if I can see doctor shit. Who's kind of like a doc. It's like they're not going to take the time to say, ooh, I want to see this person.
Or look at that 7th credit down randomly on your resume and surmise,
oh,
that was a John Patrick Shanley play. And if I think back to that character, I think they... No,
exactly. People say that shit. People say shit like that all the time. They go, "Oh, like if I do, yeah." It's like, yeah. Oh, they're gonna make the jump from like, oh, he did a John Patrick Shanley to play to maybe he could be like a cop. No, they're not. They're not taking the time to do that shit. So it's like, just to give them credit, but to an extent, I will say, doesn't allow for a lot of imagination.
Right.
They're not. Doesn't allow for a lot of imagination or risk. Right.
Exactly.
And the other benefit is the headshots and reels in this respect, right? It's like, and this isn't really a benefit, this is just more of a tool, but it's like, look, if they're casting a cop role, and if you have a reel where you're a cop in the reel, you are probably, whether we like it or not, probably about 100% more likely to get the job or get an audition, than someone without the cop role. It's just common sense. It's just the way the world, it's just how fast it is. So in considering type, as we think about, headshots, reel materials, it's important to think about types of roles you can play. But, what we'll talk about is how is persona channeled through the type.
Well,
right, and that's really, yeah.
And let's also talk about why today, in 2023, why type is sort of a old-fashioned, unnecessary tool. And it's because we do live in a day and age where the individual, identity, race, religion, sexuality, gender, all of those pieces are part of actually what, especially in our community, in the acting community, part of what people are looking for.
Sure.
So that we see a diverse body of representation, which is great. And therefore, even to our point about type always kind of being bullshit, it's especially bullshit now. So relying on, I'm the sultry villainess who will stab you in the back.
It's old-fashioned.
What does that even mean?
Well, and it's old-fashioned because it's like, what does that even look like today? What does that even mean? What you're saying is monoculture, which puts the perspective on what a girl next door actually is or what a bad guy actually is like, right? Like the framework through which we view those things is crumbling. So who's to say what a sultry whatever is these days? Who's to say what a ingenue is these days? It looks different, so it's outdated. But the other thing you know, I think that, well, let's talk about what actor marketing has to do, top letter. What does good actor marketing have to do? It has to do two things that we talk about all the time. You need to break through the noise, and you need to stay relevant. We're kind of talking about how type does not help you stay relevant, especially if you're kind of hanging on to old-fashioned ideas. But let's talk about breaking through the noise. You know, it's not unique. This is the biggest problem with type, is that the second you start to say, I'm the fiery redhead who will tell it, who's a firecracker, who'll tell it like it, it's like, great, get in line with the 400 other fucking people who are doing that. It's not, when you start to get into sort of hallmark, for lack of putting it, sort of like cliches, you know, you're actually creating more competition for yourself because now they're going to want the redhead who's 5'2" and not 5'3". Now they're going to want the brunette who's got brown eyes. They're going to want the girl next door who's a blonde, as opposed to if you are a unique individual who is going beyond type, you stand out more and don't create as much competition for yourself.
Okay, but let's go back a step to get back to what you're saying, because and I want to do one preamble and then talk about the macro thoughts. The preamble is, Mike, that we know that something that we've discovered in doing this work is that we're not looking to help people become sheep, and by that I mean, you know, this is not about doing what everybody else does. This is partially why we're saying fuck type, because this is not about getting in line with the other folks trying to sell the same damn thing.
Co-stars your whole fucking life. I mean, it's not. Yeah.
We're helping people try to become stars, and I don't even mean that in the stars. I'm seriously saying, like, you know, you've got something uniquely valuable to offer. Push it the fuck forward. Period. Point blank. End of story. So with that said, to quote Erica Hart again, and let's talk about why this is so difficult and why actor marketing is so challenging. Erica Hart said to us, interesting phrase, she is looking for interesting people who happen to act. And this gets back to this idea of persona. Because what is bad actor marketing? Oh, look, I'm an actor. What does that come in the form of? Self-tapes. Don't post your self-tapes. I'm sorry. And there could even be people from casting being like, no, don't post your self-tapes. It's when we're talking about type, like, that's not how you want to sell yourself.
It's just not interesting. Who is that interesting to? And
we're gonna
get. Well, let's talk about this because we're kind of blending lines here. But it's like, this is, you know, I think we have influencer marketing to thank a lot for this, because say what you will, social media influencers, boo-hoo, blah, 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 but they've really actually made this more of a fascinating market in the sense that this is about entities. You know, an acting career now is about being a fucking entity. And I'm not talking about a big star. I'm just talking about as you're saying, someone interesting, someone with a point of view, someone with something strong. I want to see Joshua Morgan play these. I always say Robin Williams. Robin Williams was a fascinating actor with a fascinating persona, with a fascinating point of view, and as a result, guess what? You wanted to see him do different types of roles. He could do 1 hour.
And we weren't just impressed with his accents. It wasn't like he does good accent work. That's not what it was selling.
He led with his light,
yeah,
and he led with what was interesting,
his point of view,
and as a result, you would want to see him play different types. Whereas if he just limited himself to like, I'm the funny friend, it's like now he just put himself into a fucking box and created more competition for himself. And so, and in this social media age, that is what people are trying to find. They're trying to find interesting, and the Kardashians. What do the Kardashians do? What are their skill set? You know, obviously I actually have a lot of respect for them. I think they've grown something really interesting, but they're not actors. They're fascinating people. They're interesting people. And this is what we're looking for today. We're looking for entities. We're looking for very clear personalities. And personas.
Absolutely.
And that's what people, and how you grow an owned audience. Because let's talk about this with type. It's only for casting. Who else is it for? Directors aren't searching the Instagram going, oh gosh, I got to find my next girl next door. No, they're fascinated by the actor. They're fascinated by the person and then want to put them in. They're not searching for that. Only casting is the ones who are really trying to search for types.
And maybe reps who are looking to meet casting needs in some regard.
Well, reps who are really kind of, I think, lower level, who are not, WME is not going like,
exactly.
Hey, we need a villain stat. They're like, who's the next thing? Who's the next interesting person out there, next interesting artist. So if you want to play a low, and this is, by the way, I don't care if you have 100 co-star credits or you have no co-star credits. You have to be playing a big game, and so you need to be playing a large game. And so, but the other thing too is that you can't grow an owned audience. You can't grow an owned audience that way. Who is gonna? Let's just say on Instagram, if you're like Firecracker, who is gonna tell it like it is, sassy? It's like. Who is going to follow that besides a couple of loser actors?
It's so bad.
But it's true. But who is gonna follow that? Are you gonna get 10 million followers? Like no, like you're not gonna grow. Who's gonna be actually? I'm an actor, and guess what? I'm not interested in that.
And you
I'm not gonna
follow. I know.
I'm not gonna follow Firecracker with tell it like it. Like that's who cares. That's not interesting. So
well, and also because part of what you're getting at, just to be clear, is any business ever. We talked about the idea of a promise, a brand, a USP, a unique selling proposition. Essentially, what makes you unique? That's what we're looking for. And a type does not really market out any unique values. It doesn't tell us about, what your point of view is. It is nothing. It
tells you what kind of
it's
roles
like being like
you can
tomato
play.
soup. Like that's literally
exactly.
I don't even know how it tastes. I don't know if
coconut water. Okay, well, what makes this coconut water better than that coconut water? What you're right about is that there's in the messaging out of your unique values. What value does type play with any of? Girl Next Door is the type of role I can play. That doesn't give me any insight into what kind of actor you are, what your skill sets are. What makes you interesting. What's your point of view? What kind of people do you bring to the table? I mean, look. If I'm somebody who's taking meetings and trying to find the next big thing, you being the girl next door tells me nothing about what kind of audience demographics you're going to bring to the table. It tells me nothing. So the types of roles you can play, but again, this is one of the things, not to be like, they're out to get us, the fucking people, but it's like, this is one of the things, like, stay in your lane. Just worry about the types of roles you can play. That's insane. And we'll talk about how persona we think fits into all of this. But is there anything? Oh, yeah, this is the other thing, too. There's no strategies that come with it. Implicit in, okay, I'm the stoner with a heart of gold. Okay? How do you literally market that? What strategies come from that? Like, do you do like a weed newsletter? Like I don't know. Like, how do you literally take a type and grow and market it to the world besides having your headshot and have the caption being like, "Pass the blunt, bro," or whatever?
I know.
It's like, how do you literally? What strategies can you actually use to market type? Whereas if you understand your persona, which is the effect you want to have on people. Partially is like the effect you want people to feel when they engage with your work. If you understand what your conflict is, like what's going on, like what are you fighting? Like there's a million strategies that can come from that.
Because when we talk, I mean, let's talk about persona. Let's talk about persona because I think that it is what we are most excited about and really believe is the most worthwhile consideration for actors in terms of what we are marketing, which is Mike was sort of talking about in terms of conflict, goals, vulnerabilities, just the story of the person, the persona. I also, if it's important that I say this, and I think I'm going to find words one day to even put this in a little more carefully thought out, but I also think it's for safety. I say that because we are public-facing figures. We joke about, don't cancel us. But, and we, it's not like we have a huge audiences ourselves per se. We're, small people in the grand scheme of the rest of this world. but we're public facing figures, and what we say and who we are, matters and has an effect on people. The same thing is true for actors, politicians, etc. Therefore, a persona allows you, and authenticity. I cannot wait to do an episode on authenticity. What the fuck? I really cannot with this shit. I've really been thinking a lot about it. It's the appearance of authenticity, folks. You're not trying to be authentic. You don't want to be authentic. I promise you. You don't.
I love that. That's a clip right there. Be fake. Be a fake person. No, but you're right. No, but listen. Well, here's what you're right about. It's how this business works. Because as you and I say, well, this is really important. You can't market something messy. This is what objectifying yourself means. Objectifying yourself is not about stripping away your humanity. It's about finding something complex and clear to message out. Because if it's messy, if it's all over the place, if it's not consistent, if it's not clear how I'm supposed to feel when I engage with it or anything like that, then I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about persona, you and I talk, this is what people do. Top agents at the top, they'll give you, this is what you're doing. This is the spin. This is publicists. This is the spin. This is what we're trying to, this is the persona or the story.
Scranton kid from PA.
Whatever. We want to create a story around you.
Exactly.
We want to create a story. So persona is when we talk about how you create a story around yourself, persona is what we do in our day-to-day, what we message out that is the epitomization or the what's the word? What's it called when you take like an animal and you humanify, anthropomorphic, whatever the fuck.
Having a stroke?
Yeah, anthropomorphic, like a Mitch McConnell, whatever.
That was so sad. That was really sad.
Just like that. But what I love about is that first page, like.
Well, the first one, but the second one, he's like, what? But
then he kind of like closes his mouth because he knows he's like can't keep talking. He's kind of like,
I know, it's so sad.
Well, I don't know.
Why were we talking about Mitch McConnell?
I don't know because I said anthropomorphological.
Oh, because
you know that word I'm trying to say.
Anthropomorphic.
Anthrax. Send anthrax to casting directors.
To Mitch McConnell. Oh my God, they get what they said. No, they're gonna come barreling in.
Send anthrax to the Castro.
Stop! This is really bad. We're gonna get canceled. No, okay, but let's also.
No, but wait. Let me finish my point.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Persona is how you take a story and you give it a human form.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Which is you. You are. It is the. And we'll talk about. Let's talk about now. That's your appearance. Literally, how are you dressing, presenting yourself to make clear, and to be clear about, hey, if you're supposed to be if part of your brand is danger, is sexual energy, danger, whatever it is, then that better be in how you dress. You can't be walking around dressed in a burlap sack. You know what I mean?
Let's take a pretty popular example of a great talent, but it's all persona, and that's Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes, of course.
Great actor. I mean, Jennifer Coolidge is a remarkable talent, but we're not. And even though we go, yeah, Jennifer Coolidge is great. What we're vibing with is the persona of Jennifer Coolidge. No. We could talk or not talk for hours, and it's not that that's the only thing she does, but also that's kind of the point of view. And when she got up on stage to accept her award, and she was like, first of all, I just want to thank, and we're like, oh my God, it's the same. It's the point of view. That's what we love.
But just about what makes it up too. It's how she dresses, and how she's had the work done. I mean, it's like that's all part of the vibe. It's all part of the vibe. So how you dress and think about what you want people to feel.
Absolutely.
When you dress up, it's and
your behavior, how you act in the world,
exactly.
How you speak, what language you use, the people you spend time with.
Well, it's interesting, and I just want to say something about this. When you have actors who are like, especially like, straight white dudes. But like, those people. But it's like, I'm edgy, I'm challenged, it's but bitch, let's see it. Bitch, come at me then, bitch. Like walk into the fucking audition room and give me that challenge. Give me that standoffish behavior. Give it to me. And people are going to go, oh, no, that's unprofessional. It's like, people don't give a shit about professional. They want to feel, I mean, to an extent, I mean, what do you want me? Don't take a shit on the floor. I mean, you know, but it's like people hire assholes all the time. But what's important is that you're clear. It's very clear what you're giving me. And so if you're supposed to be like, I'm an edge, if part of what your brand is like, I want people to feel challenged when they engage with my work and uncomfortable, then do it. In your tapes, how are you delivering on that? You know, and not just in your acting choices, the second you walk into the room.
Absolutely.
When your director takes you out to, you know, dinner to talk to you, or you want to collaborate with somebody. I'm not saying that you're an asshole to them, but.
Well, let me just say this, because I do agree with you. I do agree with you, most importantly, on the idea of clarity and owning what it is your point of view
Your
is.
light.
Owning your light, you know, or as Brett Goldstein says, your special sauce. And I do like that. You know, whatever it is, what is that essence?
Smart.
But I do think it's actually helpful to briefly talk about something that concerns people about this idea, even people that we work with when it comes to persona. When we talk about fears, vulnerabilities, being standoffish, you know, obviously we still do want people to want to work with us. And at a developmental stage, you can be clear all you want. It is important that we're putting your best foot forward. So I think the thing I just want to say is that just like with all elements of, especially this work, there is an element of nuance and
Use your discretion.
Exactly.
But let me give you an example.
Give you an example?
No, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Well, first off, let's talk about you. That is part of your brand. Part of your brand is a little bit not standoff, but there's intimidation a bit in your brand. There's a bit of challenge in your brand. Walk into the room. I knew
It's
a guy.
true.
I knew a guy who was like this, and he worked all the time, and that was definitely part of his sauce. Was like, I don't give a fuck what you think, and he was nice. He was professional, but you know, when they said action, he would wait 30 seconds before he start.
Right.
He would wait 30 seconds. He did it on his time. And what people want to see, I'm not saying like call everybody an idiot and like freak out and have blow-ups or some shit. I'm just saying if you say you're something, if you say you're a wisecracking whatever, or, you know, just as a shit, but part of my brand is, you know, I'm weird. I'm willing to like embrace the weird or embrace the uncomfortable. Then, bitch, it better be weird, a little uncomfortable in your auditions.
Yeah.
I want to see. Let's get it. Bring it out. Lead with it, as opposed to diluting.
I agree.
You're diluting your special sauce. So you have to take big risks.
I agree.
You have to take big risks.
I also just want to say that as we've discussed, this is a unique challenge for actors, for straight actors, and by that I mean, you know, we've talked about this about how comedians can easily market themselves, how even musical theater performers, it's easier in some ways to market themselves, even, you know, comedic actors. When we're talking about, you know, the legit, serious dramatic actor, we really struggle to find good examples of that marketing. Why? Because if you go to a lot of these actors' pages, it's lifestyle shots.
Right.
An energy, which is a part of it. But when we're talking about, and by the way, interesting person who happens to act, you know, that's not a bad thing per se. But I do also just want to say that the who happens to act piece is important.
I agree.
And when we were mocking earlier the idea of posting self tapes, look, we get it. It's like a way to be like,
what other content do I post?
Of
That's all I
course.
fucking have.
And
or
that's
whatever.
is, you know, for a different episode in a lot of ways, you know, the strategies more specifically, I'm just really just taking the time to acknowledge the challenge that if we're not doing type, we're selling persona, great. And then within that, the story of the actor, amazing. And also, though, let's see the fucking goods. Because, you know, and we've had conversations about a lot of examples of this. This is especially true for developmental actors who don't have a lot of body of work to show. We are looking for something that can also go, oh, and they're also
well, look
a great
at people who have
actor.
similar, you know, let's take, you know, something we hear a lot of is serious dramatic actors. You know, exclusivity is a big thing that comes up, right? It's like, exclusivity. I only do art. Well, that's high touch. So, already what that tells me is that you need to be a little high touch. Where are, that informs, I'm not saying, but, what are you wearing? What do you dress at? What do you wear? When you look at sort of like, I think of even someone like Pope, I think about even someone like Jay, like they dress well. There's an aloofness and there's a I have good taste. If you have good taste, I better see that on your body. I mean, it's like, these things extend, get deep about these things, right? And think about what language do you use? I'm artistic, what vocabulary do you use? Do you speak like me, like a fucking idiot? Or are you like, that's not my brand. But it's like if you're a highfalutin artist type and that's what you want to message out, I'm the next Daniel Day-Lewis, I'm the next very serious actor, well, then choose your words carefully. And what I would argue is another part is choose your community carefully.
Sure.
Choose your community carefully. Who are you being seen around, right? Think about the types of people you're being, associated with. Who are you when you're posting? I argue that if you're getting lunch with a friend in the business, that's better industry marketing than a self-tape, in my opinion, because it messages out, I know people in this business. I'm somebody who's valued in this community. I'm blah, 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 blah. Who are you associating with? That's another part of persona.
I do want to go all the way back to materials for a quick second in relation to this idea of type, though, because with that workshop with Lilac, one of the things that was helpful, even you and I were talking about afterwards, is in the organization of your materials, specifically your reels, on something, for example, like Actors Access. We do need to help them, per the point about 1,100 submissions, especially if they're looking for a kind of content, to help them understand the story of your creative persona as an actor, your point of view, etc. And I'm bringing this up because how you label and organize that content is important. So, for example, one of the things Lilac was showing us was some people had tapes that just said angel kiss. What's that? If I don't know, if I'm a casting director just trying to get a sense of you, I see angel kiss. I'm not going to have 3.5 minutes to watch your mediocre short film.
John demo reel. It's like right. Or name of short demo reel.
And the reason why I'm bringing this up though, Mike, is because I was thinking about how sometimes we see this. If you have an actor website where it says media or whatever your materials are, I would argue that's a different, should be organized and categorized differently than what it might look like on the back end for casting.
Sure.
In a lot of ways. And even there, I just want to be clear though, I don't think it's like nosy neighbor, best friend. I still would argue that probably it's within the realm of like film, TV, comedy reel. Stage comedy reel, keep it a little more, because when we're trying to create that persona and get away from the I am an actor marketing, even within that, we can craft that. We're on the website. I was just thinking about this. Maybe it even says for industry professionals, casting and creatives, whatever, click here. Does it take them to, and it's not even, why do I say that? Because we'll talk about owned audience more another time, but it is really the power of what it means to market in 2023 as an artist is to develop an owned audience. And to your point, an owned audience doesn't care about nosy neighbor.
Well, and I think the other thing to note about just when it comes to these materials and type, it's like, I would argue, great, let's see your, stoner with a heart of gold. Let's see that if that's the type of role you can play. Let's see it, but your persona better be shining through that.
Exactly.
You better be shining through that part. Let's see if you get cast as if you're like, I want to be the detective, that's what I want to be. Those are the types of roles I can play, is like the detective on Blue Bloods. I better see your unique persona, which, by the way, is not inherent. This is another thing, too. You can't be like, well, I'll just do the part and I'll shine through. No. You need to understand, if you talk to anybody who's big.
Let me say something about that from an audition standpoint. We're, one of our good friends, Brian Suto, is a great writer, director, and casting associate, Telsey. He's going to be on our podcast.
Yes, he is.
At some point. But, remember when he said to me, I had him asked him if he could look at some tapes of mine. And one of the things he said was, go ahead and get it wrong. And what that really meant to me in terms of what we're talking about, and even relation to fuck type, is that he was saying a lot of my tapes were reflective of what I thought they wanted based on my, type and interpretation of what would be the cleanest way in, as opposed to what you're talking about, which is what's my point of view.
Exactly. And let me say, because and the thing I want to say, make clear about this, you have to figure that out. It's not implicit.
Exactly. I mean,
and
or it is, but then it's important to understand what it is.
Label it.
Exactly.
Well, but that's the thing is that when we talk, I often say to people is that we're characters playing characters. I need to understand what my gifts are. I need to understand as an actor and as a person what my strengths are, my weaknesses, my vulnerabilities, my conflict, my point of view, my relationship with the world, the impact I'm trying to have, how I want people to feel when they engage with my work as an actor. I need to understand all of that and then bring it, I would argue, to the part.
Right.
And to make sure that because let me just say this.
Yeah.
What I feel like is when I say like, if you're play the stoner with the heart of gold. If that's the part you really think you could play those parts. But you better know what you bring different to those roles than anybody else does. If you're always, going to be cast as the cop, you better understand and verbalize what you do that's different than other people playing that part.
Sure.
And what we're talking about, that special sauce, that juice, that thing, that is the thing that is always on, not just when you're acting. That's the thing that's always on. It's on when you meet with people, IRL. It's there on your Instagram page. It's that thing that's constant. And that is...
Exactly.
So therefore, you're always on. You always have to be on. This is business. We're presenting a vision and a story for people. And so that's what I would argue is go ahead. List all the types of roles you can play when you're trying to figure out what self-tapes or real scenes you want to include. But you better do a lot of work understanding what your unique persona is and make sure that is channeled through those headshots. Take the headshots where it's like, okay, this is my detective headshot. I actually think that's right. Go ahead, take the detective headshot, but there better be that little special something.
What's your point of view?
That special something.
Exactly.
In the shot that says, hey, I'm not just one of the hundreds of people who can do this. I'm going to bring something unique to this type.
I'm glad that, it's a good way to sort of sum all this up because it kind of goes back to the first point, which is so many of us for so long have held on to type, which is outside of our control.
That's a good point.
There's a lot of ways because a lot of times it's visually based more than anything else.
That's a good point.
It's outside of our control, but what we can control and understand and use and put into and message out is our persona. I do just want to say, because someone might be like, well, how do I craft a persona? It is important to note that, a brand is made up of 3 different perspectives. Who you are, what your story is, who you are, who you want to be, which could be different than things you are right now, and who you are perceived to be. And we have a process that we take people through to get feedback, to understand, to craft it, because a persona is not one sentence.
No, let me say this. I think what we're talking about too is the story first, and then the story, the persona comes out of this.
Exactly.
So in this story, I think getting those 3 perspectives, but then partially I also think you have to understand, just like any good story, what's the stasis? So what are people seeing on the surface, or what's sort of like the beginning point, or, this is my first impression. What's the conflict? There's got to be. That's why I say the thing about the ass. If you're like, I don't take any shit. That's that's a big part of my brand. Then you better not take any shit. Conflict is good. We want some conflict. We want that sexy. You want a little darkness.
Exactly.
As opposed to trying to put it all down and be like, no, smiley, happy, professional actor. That's not interesting.
Really good actor, sings well, nice to work with. Okay.
Okay, who cares? Get in line. But it's like, if we can see what's the conflict in your... Are you a little unprofessional? Good. Be a little unprofessional.
Not
you better
not
have
not
the good,
not a liability, but
not a
maybe
liability, but maybe a little like, I don't know. Are you like going into the audition, you spill your coffee, and you're like, oh, okay,
who knows?
who knows? Who knows?
It's going to be for each
bold.
individual.
Exactly. Be bold. That's all I can say. And so, but let me finish.
Yeah.
Also, part of what the story is what do you want people to feel? What do you want people to feel when they engage with your work? When we talk about Daniel Day-Lewis, there's an aura of mystery. Who is he? Who's he really? What's his deal? He's mysterious. If that's how you want people to feel, you're aloof, you're inaccessible. Right. If that's a key part of your story, well, then how are you as a person? Well, how is your behavior going to be different? Is your appearance going to be different? It's the way you speak, the people who you hang out with, that will message out that story and feeling of mystery.
It's funny because hearing you talk about this, one of the things that pops up for me, and I think about this in relation to our work. I don't mind talking openly about the fact that you and I have had many conversations about how there can be perceptions around artist strategy and what we talk about as though it's like uncool, right? How it's like not the cool thing to do. I never comes across my brain that way because I don't think about it that way, obviously. But I want to use this as an example as to why, and why I also call bullshit on that idea. Look, yes, we all want the magic of our special art, our special selves that people see, and the cream.
They just see it.
They just see it. It somehow, the magic of our creativity flows and pops out like a budding flower. We all want that. But here's the thing. I bet everybody who's going to listen to this, all 12 people, can count on two hands a number of remarkable actors who have left the business. Remarkable actors. And I'm saying this in relation to this because, again, the appearance of authenticity. We want our authentic selves, our art to be the thing that
we want people to come to us.
That's a good way to put it.
And the other thing I'll say is that may be part of your brand. That may be part of your brand. I'm all for people manufacturing, an exclusive aloof, but let's be clear. You have to make them want to come to you. So what are you going to do that's going to make people want to come to you? What are you messaging out there about yourself?
But you clear that I'm naming the insecurity around the strategy.
Yeah, well, people think it should just happen.
Exactly.
And that if you are putting
and that
on,
somehow makes you less of an artist.
And if you're leading with something,
Yeah.
which is, by the way, what, a lot of great artists do that. They understand, they lead with something different
I love
than who
this
they
story,
are.
but in 1926, Mae West produced a play on Broadway called Sex, and she put 40 gay men on the stage, many of whom were in drag. She was imprisoned. I say this because when we talk about persona, yes, it's clothing, but it's also the work you make, the story that was told. Who's this woman in the 20s with gay men on a Broadway stage in a play called Sex? What does that tell us about this person?
I use Jeremy Strong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Strong has this sort of like he's always a dick method actor and like, oh, he's so fucking blah, blah, blah. He's a father and he's a husband. We don't know who he is.
Yeah.
We don't know him.
Exactly.
We don't know who he is, nor do we have any right to know who he really is.
That's my point about the public persona.
We have no
Safety,
fucking right to know who he is.
Exactly.
But let me tell you something. HBO's marketing team, his publicists, his agents, they are leading with the story.
The method.
The method. Do you think we know Daniel Day-Lewis, he cobbles in the woods.
Yeah,
he
leaves his family for
sprite.
6 months.
He's a little sprite he's like, we don't know that motherfucker. We don't know him.
Exactly.
So people, the greatest artists in the world, lead with something. And if you don't...
Even if they have a team who might be doing it for them.
Which most of them do. And if you don't have a story to lead with, then other people will tell it for you, no matter what. It's like, who has time to look at you? Not to be whatever, and why should they? Who has time to look at you? It's a selfish perspective to be like, people should just see it. This is fucking 2023. The world's on fire. People are fucking starving. It's like, why should people stop and take the time to look at you? You need to make them see.
Absolutely.
And that's, as a business owner, that's your responsibility. That's not anybody else's responsibility. That's your responsibility.
for the sake of your business, for the sake of this dream that I'm sure many people who are listening to this have had for decades to continue to accomplish.
It's just about paying, and simply about paying your fucking bills.
Exactly. So, fuck type. Fuck
type.
it. It doesn't. It'll do you no good. You can't do anything with it. I'm sure we're going to talk many a more marketing thing in the future because
many
it
a
is
more
mess.
marketing thing.
Many a more moon may meet. What's that song from Oklahoma?
Many a new day will meet my eye. Rogers Hammerstein sues us. Those Trump.
Oh, I'm so pleased.
those Trump loving, gay hating fucking people. They sang our song.
You joke.
Listen,
what if we develop a huge conservative fan
It's
base?
not, bitch. You have Cosette behind you. What world are you living?
Republicans like Les Mis.
But let me tell you something. This is what's silly. It's like we live in a. I don't even know what I was gonna say. I do.
We live.
We live.
This has been
Can we all
Creative
just
Risk,
get along?
where we talk about art, entrepreneurialism, Trump, and everything in between.
Trump 2024.
I don't know. It's so bad.
Trump 2024. Bust the unions. Keep the gays out of our school.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please share and subscribe. And if you didn't, send it to your worst enemies. Also, make sure to follow us on socials at artists.strategy.
I wonder if this is episode 4. I wonder if this will even be released.
Why do you say that?
Because we canceled by then.
All the episodes preceding us have canceled us. We're just always canceled by the end of every episode. Will they get It's like Pinky in the Brain. What will we do today, Pinky? The same thing we do every day. Try not to get canceled.
Yeah, try not to get canceled. All right.
Anyway, bye.
Bye.